Welcome to another episode of The Session. I am Timothy Teach Jones.
What's up, y'all? This is Dwight James Jr.
Indeed, one of the central themes in our lives personally, and I've been really waiting to talk about this topic, man, and it's probably the most important topic to me personally. I love talking about marriage and dating and all that other stuff. But when it comes to a life of winning, a life of victory, or just maximizing your potential, I think if we had to summarize the entire season, you can't do any of it without faith.
Oh, man, absolutely. Faith is the cornerstone of everything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been waiting on this. I've been waiting. The listeners have been waiting on this episode.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about everything else. And a lot of the listeners who know your background or know my background are like, okay, but when are you going to talk on this subject? And so here it is.
Yeah, man. And see, for those that don't know, and there's a lot of people that we do know that listen to this podcast, but then there's podcasts with people, and this podcast travels all over the world. We get feedback from different countries. For those of you that don't know me or Dwight, when I met him, he was at that age. Well, let me say this. We were both ministers. I don't even have to go into detail of how old and where we were. We were both ministers. And all ministers are people that are out serving and helping people, et cetera, et cetera. But I speak for us. I speak for myself in saying that without faith, man, I'm nothing. I believe in God. I know that, everybody doesn't, and to each his own, and everybody has a right to believe in what they want to believe in. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that he is my Lord and he is my Savior. And my mother used to always tell me, sometimes I just wanted her to change the subject, but now her voice resonates in my head. She would always tell me when I was young, put God first, aside from Jesus, you ain't nothing. I was like, well, Mama, aren't you supposed to speak life to your kids? Ain't you supposed to tell them they can be somebody? They can be the president of the United States of America? And she would say, you ain't nothing if you don't have Jesus. So that just stood out to me.
No, it's true. My dad the same. My mom the same. My mom still says that. Like all you have is your faith in God. And so that is the cornerstone of my life. It's how I build my life every single day. And my dad used to say, keep God first. He said, if you keep him first, everything else will work out.
Yeah.
Just keep God first. So no, your mom said that. My dad said it. So it's true.
And D, I think that it's important for us to talk about it because we live in a day and time now where there are people that do not know what they believe. And this is not bashing them or magnifying us. I literally am. My mother was right. I am nothing without God. So there's no ego involved in me making that statement. But there are people who do not know what they believe. And I think that is priority one in we can't talk about living your purpose if you don't know who you are. We cannot talk about, having a successful life or marriage. You meet someone and she believes one thing and you don't know what you believe. There's confusion there. So D, you even pointed out point number one, know what you believe. What does that mean to you as a person? And when you encounter other people, can you, and you've worked with youth just like me, can you identify when people, are confused and they don't know what they believe and the effects it has on their lives?
Yeah, most definitely. Because we talk about purpose a lot, Tim, and your purpose has to deal with your identity. Like, who are you as a person? Who are you as an individual? And so knowing what you believe is the cornerstone to all of that. Now, I believe in God. I believe Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. I have people I know and, great people who believe differently. Now, believe what you want to believe, but I understand this is that I have so much respect for the people who disagree with the way I believe, but they believe something.
Mm-hmm.
They are adamant. Quick example, I have person, I don't want to put the person out there, but I have an individual who believes completely different from what I believe, but it honestly is one of the greatest people I've probably ever met. And just, like character wise. And, it's interesting, Tim. The ones who don't believe the way I believe per se, or the way you and I believe, but the principles are very, very similar. I'm like, are you sure you don't believe? Because you sure act like you do. So it's important just to know what you believe. And a lot of that comes from the way you were brought up. I was brought up in the church. You were not allowed to live or be in my mama's house on a Saturday night and not be at church on Sunday. I mean, now that was impossible. If you was in the house on Saturday, you was going to be in church on Sunday. And so church was instilled into me. And so that's the way I grew up. That's the way I was brought up. It's the way I still am today. And so a lot of what you believe comes from your childhood. Now, if your parents didn't know what to believe, or there was no belief system kind of instituted at a young age, well, then as you get older, you start searching. And that's that part of that, the purpose and identity that people are looking for. The first step in purpose is, one, knowing what you were created to do something. But in order to know what you were created for, you have to know the creator.
Right.
And so that whole aspect is key to knowing, who you are as an individual.
Yeah. And guys that are listening, we want to make sure that we're very clear about something. When we talk about faith, we are not talking about religion, and we are not talking about church. And when I say church, I'm talking about the traditional institution of church. We're talking about relationship. That's what we're talking
about. Absolutely.
So faith is acting on what you believe. And so just so that people, I want to make sure that we're very, very, very clear for people that are listening. This is not about religion. When we talk about faith, let's just say that you believe that you're supposed to, well, I'll use one of my daughters as an example. She believes that she's supposed to sing because she really can. And she believes that right now she's supposed to sing. And when she graduates, we'll have to see what direction that takes her in. Maybe she goes to college and it gets a scholarship for singing. Maybe this, that, and the other. Here's the point. She has faith. She believes that. So what does she do? She goes and takes lessons, and she gets vocal lessons, and she sings with this show choir, and then she sings in this concert choir, and then she auditions for solos. Faith, like this conversation about having faith. Yes, number one, you need to have faith in who you believe in, number one. And then number two, you have to have faith in yourself. Like, I look at Dwight, who has a lot of confidence for the things that he does. But if it took faith for you, Dwight, to get in the car and move to Florida, do you feel what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. And faith, I like the example of your daughter. Faith is not only acting what you believe, faith is confidence.
Yeah.
And your daughter has the confidence within herself to act on what she believes in.
Yeah.
And so using that, she is fully confident that she can sing and she can do it. Now, I've seen the videos. I mean, the girl is bad. I give it to her.
Yeah.
So all of that is connected. And, here we go talking about purpose again. But your faith is connected to your purpose.
Absolutely.
Because her purpose, whether it's a component of it or the whole thing, Tim, part of that is singing. And so you have to have faith. You have to have confidence. You have to act on what you believe in if you're going to walk out your purpose.
Yeah.
So it's all connected is what
absolutely.
I'm saying.
And guys, when I make reference to Dwight and his family, getting up and leaving California and moving to Florida because they believed that they were supposed to do that, that's faith. And write this down if you can. Faith is your roadmap. Like, none of us knows how to navigate this thing called life on our own. Now, that's a fact. I want feedback. I want comments. I want to know who agrees with this, who disagrees with that. I am completely fine having a mature conversation with people. That's not the issue. But we cannot argue this. None of us is born into this world and somebody gives us at the age of 2. Now we go to school and, we get what's called formal education and we learn that 2 + 2 is 4. We know how many presidents there were in the world. And, some of these things that we learn, we don't even take with us for the rest of our lives. However, faith will be the roadmap for your life. This is my personal opinion because it works for me. I think that everything starts with prayer. It should. Now, that's a how do you say controversial topic in today's society because prayer has been taken out of school. We make comments. Comments are made at restaurants. If you see somebody bow their head and pray over their food, that's fine. One thing that I teach my daughters, no matter what the world is talking about and how trends change, and now, we talk more about karma than we do about prayer. I get it. We talk more about vibes and, all the other terms. Fine. You better pray about who you're supposed to marry. You better pray about where you're going to work. You better pray before you get in that car. You can drive well, but you don't know who else is on the road driving. You better pray over your kids before they go to school. Yes, they have the right mindset and they're going to go get their education and go home. You don't know what disgruntled, angry child, whose needs are not being met or they just have an issue. Maybe they're retaliating against a bully. I think that when it comes to faith, that is the place of humility that before we make a decision, we pray about it.
Prayer, Tim, is the foundation of your faith. Now, you said your faith is a roadmap. You're absolutely right. None of us know where we're going to be for sure in the next 5 to 7 years.
Right.
Now, I know you have your professional plan and your personal development plan, and you got it all planned out. But you don't know for sure where you're going to be. You don't even know where you're going to be at the end of this podcast.
Yeah.
So you have to have faith and confidence in your journey. And that faith is built into your roadmap. And prayer is a part of that. I pray every single day. I pray over my family, my children, everything, even before I leave the house. And so prayer, so we don't make it all deep and all, the super duper thing. Prayer is simply a conversation with God.
Absolutely.
And, but people of different religions pray. So it's not about only Christians pray. No, I don't care what religion you are. Most religions have some type of prayer instituted into it. And so that's just cornerstone. And if you're on this journey, I suggest it strongly that you do pray, because you hear a lot about, positive energy and, positive vibes. I got a comment, Tim, from a listener probably a couple of weeks ago and who was enjoying the podcast and said, I'm sending positive energy your way. Well, thank you. Thank you for the positive energy.
Yeah, I'd rather have that than negative.
yeah. Don't send me no negative stuff. So I understand it.
Yeah.
But, we use these different terms now in the 21st century. But but it is a roadmap. That's for sure.
And D, I think that it's I mean, I'm loving this conversation. I literally waited from when we started talking about even having a podcast. I waited to have this discussion. When it comes to prayer, and I just want to piggyback on what Dwight said, and then we can move on. Guys, now you see a lot of this posted online all the time, and it becomes kind of cliche, but it's so real. I pray when I'm grateful. I pray when I don't know what to do. I pray when I'm happy. I pray when I'm sad. I pray when I make a mistake. I pray when everything's going great. Like, I love what he said. It's communication. It's conversation. It is literally acknowledging that there is someone. Now I'll say it in a way that a lot of people will be able to accept because of new school terminology. It's acknowledging that there is a higher power. I mean, we know who he is, but I can phrase it in a way that everybody can receive it. When you're praying, you're acknowledging that there's someone bigger than you. It's no different than if you have a child and they say, pick me up, daddy, pick me up. They acknowledge that you're stronger than them and that, oh, daddy, you're going somewhere. My daughter Chanel, man, that's my road dog. When she was like 1.5, as soon as she could start putting words together, if I walked out the door, I give my jacket. Like she'd go grab her jacket. I'm like, you are not invited. I'm about to go see a rated R movie. This is daddy's time. I'm about to go see Training Day. And she'd jump in the car and now we're going to go see Shrek. But in order for her to get to the theater, she had to come with me. She depended on me to protect her. I never assaulted my child, never abused my child. If I told her we were going to drive to Fresno, she'd fall asleep in the car and rest peacefully knowing that we were going to Fresno. So acknowledging God and talking to him is just a matter of respect that you are greater than me. You made me. You know why you made me. You have the owner's manual. And, if there's anything that's referred to as purpose, it's your purpose for my life. Let me just acknowledge you and depend on you and rely on you to get me to where I need to go. But that prayer it can be done on any given day, at any given time. You do not have to get down on your knees. You can be driving down the street, pray. You are sitting in the office waiting to be interviewed. Go in the restroom while you're in there pee-peeing. Please help me to do an excellent job on this interview. And I ask that you give me favor with these people. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh man. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. This is right up my alley. Listen, you don't know it all. I'm not talking about you, Tim. I'm talking about the listeners.
Me too.
But we don't know it all. We have to be humble enough. Now, prayer requires some type of humility.
That's right.
And some honesty within yourself to say, yes, there is someone who knows more than I know, who's been here before I was here. Prayer requires humility because you have to admit, I don't know everything. And we're talking about this roadmap. I don't know where I'm going. I need directions.
Yeah.
When you're in a new city you've never been in before, you have some type of GPS on your phone or something that tells you exactly how to get to your destination.
Boom.
That's what prayer is. Prayer is your GPS system to help you on this road that you're trying to get to, And so we talked about the confidence and, knowing what you believe in. The prayer component is so essential to where you're trying to get to. I pray about everything. Tim, we prayed before this podcast even started.
Come on, man.
Months and months ago. Prayer is foundational. Now, moving on, your faith will be tested.
It will.
So I'm not saying, you pray, you got this roadmap, you know what you believe.
Everything's going to be perfect.
It's just going to be this perfect life for you. No. Once you know what you believe, now we're going to test it to see if you really, really got this down. Think about when you were back in school. You would study, you would study this material, get it down inside of you, and then test day would come. And then you would be graded on what you were learned a few weeks ago. So your faith is going to be tested. And so, Tim, I remember you wanted to share about a story about faith being tested.
Yeah. And while you're talking, and I'll definitely share that, but while you were talking, I just kind of could see myself. White says your faith is going to be tested, and you praying does not ensure that you're going to live a perfect life or have perfect circumstances. I remember quickly when I tore my ACL in my knee playing basketball. I had to go to the doctors, and everybody listening pretty much has been to the doctors. And I had to go get surgery. So they, gave me a new ACL. I had to go to physical therapy and moved on with my life. A couple of years later, I had a herniated disc in my back, and I had to go back to the doctor. And they gave me morphine, and they gave me this, and they gave me that. Here's the thing. Going to the hospital once was not the solution. And me getting my knee fixed didn't mean that my back wasn't going to break down. So my point is, when I go to God and I talk to him about my life and I thank him for what he's done and I pray about things that I want, need, and desire or circumstances that I'd like to see work out a certain way, that does not mean that I am now going to be exempt from trouble, tragedy, trials, tribulation. I live in the same world you do. I keep going back to the doctor being God. I keep going back. Whenever I need to go, I'm going. So the story that I wanted to share was my nephew, RJ, and my sister wouldn't mind me sharing that because she has talked about it online. When he was a little boy, he had brain cancer. He was 4.5 years old. And we prayed. We prayed that God would heal him. Did we also couple that prayer with taking him to the hospital? Absolutely. We're not stupid. Took him to the children's hospital. They were able to do surgery and remove the tumor, and he was able to live a functional childhood. Well, a few months ago, he was diagnosed with bone cancer, and he is now 16 years old. And what did I do as soon as I saw him? I prayed for him because, yes, you need to go get chemo, which he has, and he's continued to get his treatment. And we continue to pray in addition to the treatment because the treatment can help, but we want a cure. We want resolution. We want what you would refer to as remission. And chemo is not necessarily the soul. A lot of people have taken chemo and died, and a lot of people have survived. So my point is, when it comes to faith, my faith is not in medicine, although I'm going to take it. My faith is not in a doctor, although I go to the doctors whenever I need to. But my faith requires me to go to God and say, God, I'm going to take this medication. I'm going to get the surgery, but I pray that you would heal me. I pray that you would make me whole. So my nephew being under attack physically, and he's even asked me questions about that. And I've had to be honest with him. We are not trouble-free. We do not, our relationship with God does not make us exempt from tragedy, but it will help us get through the tragedy so that the tragedy doesn't destroy us.
Absolutely. And, we definitely keep RJ in our prayers and keep sending prayers up for him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of times, this is why when we started this episode, we started with knowing what you believe. Because when the challenges come and when the trials come and the tests and the tribulations and on, what you believe is going to be tested. And so there are so many who stop believing in one thing and then switch gears to something else once the challenges start coming. Because I think a big misconception on faith and confidence and all that is, if I believe something, then it's going to work out perfectly every single time, and that's not always the case. You're confident regardless of the situation. Now, we believe that RJ is going to make a complete restoration, complete turnaround. He's already healed. We keep him in our prayers.
Right.
But at the same time, my faith and confidence in God is not going to change regardless.
Right.
Because that is the foundation. And so as you're listening to this and, you may have a story similar to Tim's that, we've all dealt with this. Now, listen, we have a few more minutes. And so I'm going to share this quick story,
Sure.
Now that we've on this subject. But my first child was a stillborn. And so at that time, that was probably one of the hardest, difficult things I had ever dealt with. And so when the nurses, mentioned that to us, I was in complete shock. I'm just like, wait a minute, like, I have faith. Like, I know what I believe. I have confidence. Why is this happening to me? So then, we start taking it personal, like, this is your fault type of deal. But it had nothing to do with anything I did. It had nothing to do with anything my wife did. What it did, actually, it just built my confidence even stronger because, yes, our first child, our son, was a stillborn, and, if you've heard any of the previous episodes, you always hear me refer to children because I have more than one. But that continues to this day. Like, I still have my confidence in God, and our relationship with my spouse even got stronger.
Yeah.
And so, guys, listen, as you're facing challenges and, you know, you're praying and things aren't turning out the way that you want it, just know that your confidence, your faith is not depleting, is not getting smaller, is actually getting bigger, is getting larger, you know. And Tim, I know you could probably touch on this even more, but I can just imagine the confidence and faith that your family and your sister and RJ's siblings have in God has to be even bigger than it was when this started, because they see the progress that he's making and they see this journey that your whole family is on during this time. And so faith actually brings people closer together in times of tragedy, you know. And so go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say absolutely. And you know the person that I've seen the biggest impact on, Dwight, is RJ.
Yeah.
So yeah, you mentioned me and my sisters and brothers, and you're right.
Mm-hmm.
But if you sat down and talked to RJ in person to see his confidence, there's nothing like it would be equivalent, Dwight, to you going away to war for a year in Saudi Arabia and bullets flying over your head and people around you dying, and you just keep praying and believing and getting up every day and doing your job and hoping and looking at pictures of your wife and your daughter. And the day you come back, you know within your heart that there's nothing too hard for God.
That's right.
That with him, anything is possible. But watch this. That's because of what you went through. So I want to say this because we only have 4 minutes, and this point was probably the most important out of all of it. Two things real quick, and Dwight will give his remarks as well. Two things I want to say, listeners. One is, if you're going through something extremely difficult right now, that does not mean that God has abandoned you. That does not mean that you are alone. That does not mean that you did something wrong. And that does not mean that he is not real. Well, I prayed about this and I prayed about that and I still got divorced. Baby, join the club. Life happens to all of us. God hears your prayers. If you can come out of that on the other side, your faith in him will be stronger. And lastly, when it comes to faith, faith and love go hand in hand. So there's so many conversations online and in life about faith, faith and God. And some people believe he's a woman, and some people believe he's black, and some people believe that he's a child, and some people believe he's a rock or some beads you can wear around your neck. Here's the point, because we don't have time to get into all that. If you say you have faith, you should have love. Like, you should love people. Love your wife, love your husband, love your children, love the people you work with that don't believe what you believe. That differentiates all of these different, what we would call religions. We need to love. We should be known by our love. If you're black, you need to love white people. If you're white, you need to love black people. You cannot tell me that you have faith, but you don't like black people. And you telling black jokes at the house for dinner. That's not faith, because that's not God. So I wanted to be very clear. And I know this is probably one of the most passionate podcasts we've had, because we've been waiting. We're like some bulls sitting in the, stall waiting for the rodeo. And now we get a chance to come out and say, I believe. So you gotta have love. D.
No,
bring us home.
Man, listen, absolutely. Now, on this faith issue, this faith topic, listen, you're going to have troubles. Things are going to happen, but don't get stuck there. Yes, we had, I mentioned the stillborn. My wife had, wife and I had a stillborn, our first one. But 4 months later, we got pregnant again, and then we had our daughter, and so don't get stuck in the situation that you're in. Listen, keep pressing, keep pushing forward, and keep your faith in God. Also, as we're talking about it, God is love, to Tim's point. Wow. So our nature, if we're going to say our faith and our confidence and knowing what we believe is in him, we're going to have the same characteristics as he does. and he loves everybody. It's not a Democrat, Republican thing. It's not I voted for Trump, so I don't love Hillary, and vice versa. It's love. That is the key. Faith is love. God is love. So as you're loving people, it doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what you look like. You're my brother listening to this podcast. You're my sister listening to this podcast. So guess what? I love you. I love you because that's who the God I believe in is described as.
Indeed, that should be the aroma that each of us that call ourselves believers or people of faith, we don't have to wear T-shirts when we walk on our job or we come into an interview. You should wear a suit and a tie. But the aroma that you should leave when you come in that room and leave out of that room and in your home with your spouse and with your kids and with your neighbors should be love. I hope you guys got something, and I hope that it encouraged you as much as it encouraged us, man. Thank you, D, for being so transparent.
Hey, I have to. This is going to help somebody. And also, last point, reach out to us. Let us know how this has helped you as you're listening to this podcast. Leave a rating, leave a stars. Let us know that you're listening to this.
Yeah, and I know that this is probably a little unconventional in this world that we live in, but Dwight and I never claim to be conventional. We are very unapologetic about our faith, but we're also very unapologetic about loving people. So if you need prayer and you like, when you send a comment, if you say, Dwight, pray for me about this. I do believe in prayer, and I want y'all to pray for my son. Tim, I want you to pray about my marriage. Whatever it is, make a comment. Let us know. If you disagree, we want to know your point so that we can respond to that and talk through it. We're not trying to be right and make somebody else wrong. We just want to love on you guys. So on behalf of Dwight James Jr., I am Timothy Teach Jones, and we are out.
Subscribe to our YouTube page by clicking the link below. There you'll find links to our Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any future episodes. So until next time, thanks for tuning in to the session.